interesting time in the globe, and I'd like to actually spend some time with you tonight, bringing you up to speed on some of the great research and work and practices that we've been doing. So I was working with this client, and he was telling me he was having difficulty working with this global team. They were based in the UK, India, China, the U.S., and other parts of Europe, Germany, and other parts of Europe, and as well as the U.S. And he was saying, I need a resource that's quick, that's a guide, that's short. I don't have time to read, theories and books that are wonderful, but they're heavy, and I just need, the manager's guide to how to work effectively across cultures. The quick Cliff Notes version of things. And so it was interesting to get on planes, and I need something light to carry. And so our book, which I have my copy that I read all over the place, our book is like a guide. It's intended to be that way on purpose, so you can throw it in your briefcase, you can refer, okay, tomorrow I'm traveling to Japan. I happen to open Japan. So how to greet, how to work in a team, how to manage, a little did you know. So I have a couple of things that I can effectively communicate and connect with people in that culture. And there's some exercises in this book. So that was kind of a 3-year child, this book, which is this is the 4th year, so this year we released it. But this ability to work effectively across businesses is really not an option, it's a requirement. Communicating in this kind of world. So what is culture? I want you to turn to a partner, or if you don't have a partner, turn to this wonderful man behind you. Talk to your partner. What is culture? What does culture mean to you? Talk about 2 minutes. What does culture mean to you? Oftentimes there is that intercultural disconnect. And it's patterned, right? Culture is patterned. And sometimes you need to adapt to it, but sometimes there's disconnects or misunderstandings. And I like to think of disconnect, whoops, I think I clicked too fast, as by actually telling you a story. I was working with a client, big retail company. They were expanding to India. Thank you, Chief. They were expanding to India, and I was working with the group, the U.S. group, because they were having a lot of challenges with this expansion. The group in India was a group of web designers who needed to design these elements that then would be rolling out, and the retailer was moving everything online. And I'm sure if I mention the name, you'd know the name in a second. It's one of the biggest retailers. And the manager in New York, who was American, was dealing with this, and she was having these weekly phone calls, and then made sure everything was followed up and documented in English, and organized it, and the agenda was very clear. And on the phone, the Indian colleagues would say yes. So she would say, okay, so we need to do this, this, and this by next week, and they would say yes. And then they'd get off the phone, and nothing would happen. And she got more and more frustrated. What do you think was the cultural I think there's lots of speedy cars, though. Replace no with maybe when in? China. Yep. Which continent evidences a strong collectivist, values strong family, the value is family ties and relationships orientation? High collectivist. Yeah, I'll go through some of those in a little bit. Which of the following is the most characteristic of German business culture?
Letter A.
Yeah. A. Correct. They guard their private relationships. Some more important than business relationships in Korea, Iran, and Mexico. True. Number 18. Greet with Salam Alaikum. In what country? You will say that so much better than me. Please say it. Right. Say it.
I know.
Being shy. Okay, in Saudi Arabia. And a lot of the concepts in our book are actually based on what we call the dimensions of culture. The first 5 are taken from Geert Hofstede, who is an influential Dutch psychologist, sociologist, actually did a lot of work at IBM in the 1980s. Any of you familiar with his work? The first one is power distance. Power distance has to do with the degree of how the culture views power. So how do they look at power? Do they look at it more, high power distance cultures tend to look at it as more formal, more centralization of power. Formality and informality has to do with formal, obviously, is more traditionally oriented rules, rank, dress code, etiquette. The appropriate thing to do in Samoan culture is to come in and sit down, be lower than your authority, look at the floor. That's the appropriate formal way of behaving, versus informal, obviously, the casual attitudes. Wall Street, financial mecca of the world. Although every day I get these notes through email about how our financial, but we have the pendulum swing. That's what I always call this, the financial pendulum swing, up and down in New York. So, United States, straightforward, direct eye contact is obviously the way to go. Because U.S. is very individualistic culture, how do you work in a team? How do you manage a team? What's the effective way to do it? And I thought United States is the easiest because we're all here, right? Firm?
A firm hand, because I mean, if everybody's such an individual, then you kind of rein them in somehow. So. No, wrong.
Big speech.
The Generation Y folks will probably be walking out the door. Yes.
We usually don't shake hands with the Japanese, but you definitely can offer handshake if you offer it. And we call people each other with last name, with san, Chihara. So people call me Chihara-san or Sophie-san. That's how we call each other.
Very diverse country. We have around 26, 27 states. I don't think so. Every state is like a different country. Believe me, it's very diverse and very rich in culture. If you go from one state to another state in US, you will still get to see the
Russia without working with a local person. They do not like to necessarily work with you, but if you have a local person, you provide them with gifts, and that's good, and that's sort of accepted and seems okay. Essentially, there are 5 strategies for engaging in good global, effective global interactions, and we call them the learn. We call it ready to learn. Listen, effectively communicate, avoid ambiguity, respect. I'd like to really thank my team, because I don't think I would have been able to do